Every time I decide, this is it. This is the year I'm going to make something of my booktube channel. Something in my life goes horribly, cataclysmically wrong. And I'm starting to realize that's not some curse on my internet presence. It's just a function of life itself. At the beginning of 2022, actually April, though it feels like a lifetime ago, I decided to do a reading vlog for The Priory of the Orange Tree, a book I had heard a lot of good things about, but for which I had a lot of petty preconceived notions for some reason. I made up this whole weird narrative between me and its author. It brought up a lot of anxieties about the genre and myself, my identity and how it's reflected, and about my writing and things that I'm insecure about, and, how I bounce off works that reflect similar issues, weaknesses, stuff that might pass other people by, but to me stood out as an indictment of myself, not the thing that I was reading. In my first vlog, I mentioned that I had just moved back to the family home to be a full-time carer for my dad, who had just been diagnosed with brain cancer about a year after his esophageal cancer diagnosis. I figured that even though it was a demanding role to take on, it would leave me with, a lot of flexibility, especially for creative stuff, including video content. My dad died in November. And I never made it to page 500 of The Priory of the Orange Tree. I spent a lot of last year sitting on my ass, half-heartedly playing video games that I had already beaten, spending most of my attention on the sounds of my sleeping father, ready to jump to my feet when he needed me. Always more than half certain I'd hear his breathing stop at any given moment. I did do some stuff that I enjoyed and that I'm proud of last year. I made a lot of progress in my writing, particularly the main project that I'm currently working on. I met some cool new people and connected with existing friends over new things. And I even read a lot of books that I like, including Anorexia and House of Leaves, exactly when my dad was dying, and I think that decision permanently altered my personality. But, I like those books. I didn't, however, do the one little thing that I set out to do. I could not sit down and read one single book, a book that contained a lot of elements that I like, which had received a lot of good reviews, and with no time limit. Because I didn't want to. When it was 2 p.m. and it felt like 2 a.m., my dad had gone down for a nap, and my choices were to read this book and rack my brains as to why the overwhelming emotion I felt in response to it was just meh. Or I could do literally anything else. I would do literally anything else. Not even shit I particularly wanted to do. So many times I neglected writing projects. My scrapbook, my journal, my sketchbook, games, books I was halfway through. Instead, I went to go walk around the block, the same route I always took, listening to a podcast I'd already listened to 3 times over. Everything else was just too much. Even this book, The Priory of the Orange Tree, which promised so much and consistently failed to deliver, even on things I remain delighted to see even a bare skerrick of. Continues to astound me that this book made diverting cultural frameworks of religious knowledge seem boring and trite to me, just because of the self-satisfied way it presented them. How it made religious conflicts feel bland and one-sided through its complete inability to convey the kind of passion and wonder that comes with faith, except for when characters were literally eating divine fruit. Even that was too much, because I made it so. I made it into this grand narrative where I was enticed by this seemingly fascinating book by an author whose work I hadn't liked before. One where I was wrestling with the hype machine of social media, where I was trying to explain every single reaction I had to every single element of the book, even when the reaction was just, I don't give a shit. Maybe I would have finished the book if I hadn't set up that context for myself. Maybe I would have quit it much earlier. Maybe, most likely, I would never have started at all if I didn't have the idea to do a reading vlog. I held out for so long though. The 3 vlogs I did make were all done in April, and honestly, it wouldn't usually take me longer than a month to get through a book like that, even with the vlogs. And as the months ticked by without my making a 4th one, without my wanting to make a 4th one, I still held out hope. I'm a very long-term thinker. I regularly get surprised when anything takes less than a year to happen to me, and nothing that happened to me in the last year has sunk in at all yet. Even the good news. Even as the aperture narrowed, as the curtains closed, it still seemed possible that I could finish this book, these vlogs. Still, a few days ago, when a friend came over and saw the book on my end table, she cracked a joke about things that were never meant to be. I picked it up, opened it, and showed her where on page 491 my favourite bookmark yet still rested, awaiting my return. When she yanked it from the pages, the relief I felt was physical. I have to stop holding on to things for the sake of holding on to them, for the sake of technical possibility. There's only so much life we get to live, and there's no reason to waste it on goals we don't care about anymore. Not when those goals are just for us, and they have no meaning but what we assign to them. If we can make something a big deal, we can make it a little deal. And part of growing up, I think, is knowing when to say, this does not matter anymore. I'm cleaning out Dad's study. He was a note taker. Every Saturday, he'd plan out a full menu for all the meals of the week. Go grocery shopping that Sunday and follow the plan to a T. So many handwritten weekly menus, all in the exact same handwriting, the same blue pen, and the same A5 lined paper. I kept some chosen at random. It's not like I can divine great events in our lives, whether we had hot pot or roast chook on one Saturday evening. It's time to accept that those loose papers don't matter anymore. Not the physical objects. Not in the great profusion in which they exist. The spirit of them matters. The task of ensuring everyone is fed and satiated and glad to be the child of a practiced cook, that matters more than I can say, especially now, when nothing tastes like anything anymore, and I walked into my doctor's office to be greeted, God, where's the rest of you? But I don't need 800 pieces of loose paper to know that. While I still remain fixated on digging into fiction, of articulating how it makes me feel and why, of sharing my feelings with others and learning their thoughts in turn, I don't need these particular 800 pieces of paper in my life anymore. And I know that for certain, because when I sat down to write the script for this video, I had a moment. I thought to myself, I should go back and watch my own vlogs so I can remember what this book was about. And if that isn't just the most damning thing you've ever heard in your life, maybe you should read The Priory of the Orange Tree.